Hey everybody, how's it going? Well, today we're going to be talking about the 4555 cartridge. Every once in a while I'll see that there's some confusion about the 4555 and the 4570 cartridge. As you can see right here, there is a 4570 cartridge. The correct terminology for this cartridge right here would be 4570-405. This was the type of round that was used in the 1873 Springfield trapdoor infantry rifle. So what you have here is a 45 caliber bullet. There's 70 grains of black powder in the case, and the bullet weight is 405 grains. So 45, 70, 405. Here's the 4555 cartridge. 45 caliber, 55 grains of powder, 405 grain bullet weight. It's the same thing as the 4570 except for 55 grains of black powder versus 70 grains of black powder. With that being said, how do you tell which cartridge goes to the infantry and which cartridge goes to the cavalry? On the head stamp, you would see a mark for the arsenal that made the cartridge, and then you would have a number for the month it was made and a year that the cartridge was made. And then there would either be a C or an R on the cartridge. C stood for carbine, R stood for rifle. So that's how you could tell which one was the 4555 and which one was the 4570. Either a C for carbine, which would be the 55, or R for rifle, which would be the 70 grains of black powder. One for carbine, one for rifle. Later on, they upped the grain for the bullet to a 500 grain bullet for the rifle. This is not a 500 grain bullet, it's just a 405 grain bullet. I didn't push it down all the way, so it would represent a 500 grain bullet. So they upgraded the 4570-405 to a 4570-500 for the infantry rifle, and they kept the 4555-405 for the cavalry carbines. Once they did that, it was obvious which cartridge was which due to the bullet size. You could just look at it and know, hey, this is for the rifle, this one's for the carbine. With black powder, unlike smokeless powder, you don't want any air pockets between the bullet and the powder. So with the 4570, once you filled the case up with 70 grains of powder, inserted the bullet, seated the bullet, that bullet would compress that powder, so you would not have an air chamber between the bullet and the powder. With the 4555, you would have an air chamber. So what they would do is they'd take a cardboard wad and they'd use that to fill up that void. They used the cardboard wad, and they also experimented with using a cardboard sleeve that would go down into the case and pour your powder in there, and that would take up the space as well, the extra space. But I do believe that cardboard sleeve wasn't very successful. They had issues with it, so they stuck with the cardboard wad in order to take up that airspace. Okay, so I've got my original 1873 trapdoor 4570 and my reproduction 1873 trapdoor carbine, however you want to say it. So yeah, you can use 4570 in this. That's what the majority of people are going to shoot is 4570. But originally they shot the 4555 out of the carbine and the 4570 out of the rifle. And I think I failed to mention why they used the 55. You can see the barrel length on the carbine versus the rifle. Well, the 55, the lighter powder charge, helps to reduce the recoil in the shorter firearm. I've got 6 cartridges here. 3 of them are the 4570 and 3 are the 4555. And how I can tell is with the 4570s, I put a little R and I left the 4550s unmarked. So R for 4570, unmarked for 4555. I got my chronograph set up. I'm going to shoot 3 rounds out of the carbine. I'm going to shoot 3 rounds of the 4555 and then 3 rounds of the 4570. And we'll see, compare the kick and also the velocity. With my 4555s, instead of using the cardboard discs, for a wad, a spacer, I'm using cream of wheat. And this is 2F Graff & Sons black powder. 45-55 out of the carbine. 3 rounds. $1,094. $1,060. $1,078. Now we're going to go with 45-70, 70 grains of black powder. There's a noticeable difference between the 55 and the 70. 1,195. I got an error. $1,202. And I'm going to fire a 4th round. $1,208. So yeah, there is a difference between the 55 grains of black powder and the 70 grains of black powder. I can tell it on the chronograph, and I can tell it on my shoulder. So there you have it. The 45, 55, 405 versus the 45, 70, 405. The only difference is powder charge. And I've also seen the question addressed with Gatling guns, with a 45, 55 working a Gatling gun, since the Gatling gun was designed to take the 45, 70. Yes, it would work, no problems whatsoever. Just lower velocity. That's the only thing, and your trajectory might be a little different with the lower velocity, but nope, they'd function in a Gatling gun with no problem. And as for May, she was in her barn while I was shooting. She was locked up in her barn eating her oats. I just let her out, so she came over here to see what was going on. Didn't you, May? Didn't you? Who's my gal? Who's my gal? Yeah, you're my gal. So, alright, thanks for watching. Take care. Safe shooting.